Hi everyone, welcome back to Much Ado About History, and welcome to our second part of our study of the Salem Witch Trials. So previously we have gotten some background on what it was like in Salem, the Puritans' belief in the devil. We read the story of the Salem Witch Trials, what happened and what the outcome was. What I want to focus on today is one particular aspect of the trial, which is the testimony of one of the girls that were the accusers, and her name is Ann Putnam. And what we're going to do is we're going to look at two different pieces of evidence from Ann Putnam. One was when she was only 12 years old in 1692, which is how old she was during the trials. And we'll see just what she says and what an accusation and what testimony would have looked like. The second is 14 years later, from the year 1706. She's now a grown woman. She's 26 years old. And obviously her conscience has been eating at her because she's going to kind of come clean about what happened in 1692 and is going to ask the forgiveness of the people that she wronged and the community. After we look at these, I want you to think, do you believe Anne? Did you believe her when she was 12? Do you believe her when she's 26? Maybe both times she, at the time, thought she was telling the truth. It's possible that maybe both times she was trying to hide the truth or stretch the truth. That's what we're going to try to find out. So here are two pieces of evidence which relate to Ann Putnam, someone who took part in the Salem Witch Trials. Up here it says Ann Putnam's deposition. So this is the testimony that she actually gave in 1692 in the actual trials. And let's remember this, at the time, Ann Putnam was 12 years old. Then the second half, this says Ann Putnam's confession. This is where she's kind of say that she's sorry for what she did back in 1692. This is 14 years later in 1706. She's now 26 years old. So maybe her way of looking at the world is a little bit different, and she's had some regrets about what she did. So let's look at what she said in 1692 and ask ourselves, is it believable? Should we believe what she says? Is she just making this up? Let's compare it to what she said in 1706 and decide, okay, which of these Anns do we really agree with? So here's what she says in the actual trials in 1692. Ann Putnam's deposition, 1692, who testified and said that on the 20th of April, 1692, at evening, she saw the apparition, okay, so this is another word for spirit, of a minister, at which she was grievously affrighted, and cried out, "Oh, dreadful, dreadful, here is a minister come." What? Are ministers witches too? From where do you come? And what is your name? For I will complain of you, though you be a minister. If you be a wizard, and immediately I was tortured by him, being racked and almost choked by him. He tempted me to write in his book. So something that the Puritans believed in was that if someone carried around a book and wanted you to sign your name, and if they were, a mysterious person, it might be the devil, and your name was in the devil's book, and you kind of were possession of the devil. He tempted me to write in his book, which I refused with loud outcries, and said I would not write in his book, though he tore me all to pieces. But I told him that it was a dreadful thing that he who was a minister that should teach children to fear God should come to persuade poor creatures to give their souls to the devil. Oh, dreadful, dreadful, tell me your name, that I may know who you are. Then again he tortured me, and urged me to write in his book, which I refused. And then presently he told me that his name was George Burroughs. So George Burroughs actually was a former minister of Salem, and by using his name in this whole idea of spectral evidence, he's now in huge trouble because they're going to all assume that he's guilty. And that he had had 3 wives. and that he had bewitched the first two of them to death, and that he had killed Miss T. Lawson because she was so unwilling to go from the village, and also killed Mr. Lawson's child because he went to the eastward with Sir Edmund and preached to the soldiers. And then he made Abigail Hobbs a witch, and several witches more. And he has continued ever since, by times tempting me to write in his book, and grievously torturing me by beating, pinching, and almost choking me several times a day. And he also told me he was above a witch. He was a conjurer. And so what she's saying is, he's almost like a super witch. He's not just a witch, he's a conjurer, almost like a sorcerer. So this evidence that she's giving is really, really bad news for George Burroughs, because of the whole rule about spectral evidence. If someone says they saw your spirit come to you and, try to attack you, that's all the evidence that they needed. So George Burroughs, even though he could be totally innocent, he's in serious trouble here because he's named in her deposition. So this is in 1692. She was 12 years old. The court believed every word of what she said without question. They thought, why would a child lie? There's no reason why she would make this up. Now we move 14 years into the future. Now it's 1706. She's no longer a little girl. She's a grown woman. Ann Putnam's confession, 1706. She says, I desire to be humbled before God for that sad and humbling that befell my father's family in the year about 92. That I, then being in my childhood, should, by having such providence of God, be made an instrument for accusing of several persons of a grievous crime, whereby their lives were taken away from them, whom now I have just grounds and good reason to believe they were innocent persons. So she's saying, yeah, those people like George Burroughs, I now kind of believe they probably were innocent, and I gave some testimony which led to their death. And that it was a great delusion of Satan that deceived me in that sad time. Now, she's saying, yep, I did it, and I'm sorry I gave information about innocent people, but now she's saying, it's really not 100% my fault. It was a great delusion of Satan that made me do it. So she's kind of saying, well, yeah, I did that wrong thing, but the devil made me do it. It's not really my fault, in a way. That deceived me in that sad time, whereby I justly fear I have been instrumental with others, though ignorantly and unwittingly. She's like, I did take part in accusing these innocent people, but I didn't know I was doing it at the time, to bring upon myself and this land the guilt of innocent blood. Though what was said or done by me against any person, I can and truly uprightly say before God and man, I did it not out of any anger, malice, or ill will toward any person, for I had no such thing against one of them, but what I did was ignorantly being deluded by Satan. So again, she's saying she's sorry, but she didn't know that she was doing it, and that the devil tricked her. And particularly, as I was the chief instrument of accusing of good wife nurse and her two sisters, I desire to lie in the dust and to be humbled for it. Whoops. In that I was the cause with others of so sad a calamity to them and their families, for which I desire to lie in the dust and earnestly beg forgiveness of God and from all those unto whom I have given just cause of sorrow and offense, those relationships were taken away, or those relations who were taken away or accused. The confession was read before the congregation, together with her relation, August 25th, 1706, and she acknowledged it. So, how do we feel about these? Do we feel like we should believe the Ann of 26 and not the Ann of 12 years old? Or that we should believe them both? Or that we should believe neither? These are the kind of questions we have to ask ourselves, especially when it comes to issues of justice. Something that we maybe thought was right in the past, is it still right now? I'd really like you to think about this question, and I'd love to know what your answer is. Do you believe Anne more in 1692 or in 1706? Is she telling the truth in both, just one, or neither? And why do you think so? I'm interested to hear what you have to say. Okay, so there you go. I'm really interested to see what you think, and after what you've read, about Ann Putnam. Should we believe her? Should we believe that she's sorry for what she did? Is she genuinely apologetic? Or do you think she's just trying to make excuses, or cover her tracks, or put herself at ease? I want to know what you decide. Alright, well, thanks for exploring the Salem Witch Trials with me. Be well, and until next time, have a great day.